Hi everyone, it's Bren here and welcome back to my cottage garden located here in New South Wales. And as well as the usual garden update where I show you around, take a look at what's been happening since I've seen you last Friday. In this week's video, I also want to speak to you about planning for the growing season ahead. Although it's mid-winter here now in Australia and there's many areas that are still very chilly, you're wearing your big heavy woolly jumpers, you're feeling that shiver up your spine when you wake up in the morning, it is now time to start sowing some seeds for the growing season ahead of spring-summer 2020. Although we won't be sowing these seeds directly in the ground, they will go into little trays or punnets that you can put on a warm windowsill or in a greenhouse if you have it as well. And the plan is, the idea behind it is that if you sow them early now, they will be ready to transplant out in the garden in about 6 weeks' time after the last chance of frost has passed. And doing this in advance will give you a bit of a head start on the growing season, hopefully meaning that you'll be able to harvest your fruit and vegetables and cut flowers a little bit ahead of schedule. There are so many benefits to growing your own fruit, vegetables and flowers from seeds. Probably the obvious one would be that it saves you money, but other reasons too would be that your variety is broadened so much more. You're not just limited to seedlings that you can buy in garden centres. You can try out the really unusual ones, heirloom varieties from all around the world. And that's why today I'm going to share with you a list of seed companies that I've purchased some really fantastic heirloom seeds from. Here's a few Australian online seed companies that will get you started if you're completely new to gardening, but it's not limited to this list. There are many more, but these are the ones that I tend to use quite a lot. And of course, don't forget to support local businesses when it comes to purchasing seeds. I know, for example, down in my town with the supermarket, the local IGA, they sell a range of seeds which I often buy off them, as well as down the street there's a hardware store, they have a selection there, and the local nursery. Oh, the local nursery, the garden centre, is an absolutely wonderful resource to utilise. You can build up a rapport with them and they are a wealth of knowledge of what grows well in your area. For example, say with tomatoes, there are hundreds, maybe I could be wrong, maybe there are thousands, but let's just say there's hundreds of varieties of tomatoes and they will know which ones do best in the climate that you live in. And these local garden centres are often family run businesses. I know the one that's near me, they're a beautiful couple, always so supportive and helping out the community too. They've often done stuff for my kids' school, so I make sure that I go in there quite often and support them back. Anyway, the next thing I want to chat about is I just want to show you quickly a website that I find is really helpful and I think you might like it too. I would highly recommend, if you're new to gardening or just not sure what to plant or sow now, check out this website. You type in the area where you live and it gives you a list of plants, edibles and that you're able to grow and sow right now or any month of the year. So you may be asking yourself, well, what should I start sowing now? And what I would recommend would be tomatoes, eggplants, chilies and capsicums. They are the ones that take a little bit longer to get going. Whereas, say, cucumbers, zucchinis, pumpkins, I wouldn't even be stressing out about them now, because if you sow them now, by the time it comes to putting them in the ground, they will probably have grown so much. You may have to pot them up quite a few times. I just think you're wasting your time a bit sowing them now. You can wait. Once the weather warms up for them, you can put them straight direct in the ground and within a week or two you'll have a decent sized plant. So for the moment, concentrate on your tomatoes, eggplants, chilies and capsicums. I will be putting my trays with my seeds in here, which is just a little small greenhouse. But as I mentioned before, you can put them in little punnets or trays on your windowsill, as long as it gets a bit of sunlight and it's quite warm there during the day. I often recommend these as well, which are the containers that you get your strawberries and berries in. I always save these up because in essence, I guess they're like a little mini greenhouse. They already have ventilation holes in the bottom. They have a lid on top. It's a nice, snug, warm environment for your seeds to germinate. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to spin the camera around and we'll take a look around the garden. I hope you found that information useful. I'm planning on sharing more informative videos like that over the coming months, from sowing your seeds right through to harvest and any issues I have along the way. So please, if you're interested in that and you're new to my channel, I would love if you would subscribe and support me. Anyway, let's get into the garden. This time of year certainly calls for a lot of patience, although some plants like the Russian red kale in this little area have grown quite a lot. There are others that are just waiting for the weather to warm up a bit, like here where I have these teepees. At the base there's some sweet peas and they haven't really done much at all. They're just kind of sitting there, but you know what, I reckon they could benefit from a bit of watering and mulching of this area too. I just noticed that there's a self-seeding nasturtium over here at the base of the teepee. I'll leave that one there. And speaking of nasturtiums, if we swing around this way underneath the orange tree, look at the size of the leaves on this plant. That is absolutely huge. If I put my hand up against it, oh my goodness, that's the biggest one I've ever seen. I still haven't moved this little display that I put together for a TikTok video. If you want to go and check that out, I'll just pop it up on the screen. I've got heaps of videos on there that I think you might like. So these here are the pimply squash that I grew this summer, and it's interesting with these because it was only after I harvested them, despite the stalk here turning brown and me thinking that they were going to stay green, they actually changed colour. They changed to orange, and I got about 5 off the plant, which I think is quite a good yield from one plant. Yeah, but as you can see, I still haven't really used them yet. I kind of like the look of them too much to be cutting them open and cooking with them. And in my containers, these cineraeas, I can never pronounce the name, I'll pop that name up too. These are starting to open up. They are an annual flower that in my area usually blooms at the end of winter, early spring. Here's another one that I have in a basket that I just kind of filled up with soil, put some flowers in. And you know what, I just realised I didn't actually give you a list of what flower seeds you can start sowing now. So what I'll do is I'll pop that down in the description below. Over here, this is a Icelandic poppy. It's looking a little bit droopy there. I think it needs a bit of a feed. And look over here, they never let me down, the primulas. I think I showed you this plant last week, but look how many more blooms are on it now. And in this garden bed behind the rhubarb patch, a few weeks ago I put in some broccoli seedlings, and unfortunately they are not doing well at all. As you can see here, so there's one there, there's one there, there's one over here and here, and they've all started to bolt. I'm pretty much just gonna have to pull these out. I mean, I may leave them in a little bit longer until I'm ready to replant again so that the bees get to enjoy the flowers. But you know what, if you look down at the base here, nature is kind of doing its own thing, because I have a ton of these seedlings, which I think to me they look like Californian poppy seedlings. Oh, I'd love that if that's what they were. And there's lots of them here. There's a whole drift of them down here too. So I'll just have a think about it. I might end up leaving it and letting this area kind of self-seed and just see what happens. Last year I had a whole drift of borage here and it looked so beautiful. The bees absolutely loved it. So I might leave this area and I may get some of them self-seeding again. Okay, let's go and head down the back. I'm down here now near where the chickens are at the brassica patch to show you how the peas are getting on. I noticed yesterday that the golden potted peas are starting to flower, so it means it won't be long now until these get pollinated and I'll be able to harvest from them. Up this way in the canopy of the lemon tree, you can see that it is absolutely dripping with them. As is the orange tree. This one never lets me down. And on the lime tree there aren't that many left. There's a few more to go to ripen. I can see one there. But this one here, over here, is ready to pick. Now you may be saying to yourself, but that's not a lime. Why is it yellow? It looks more like a lemon. And I'll say back to you, I promise it's a lime. It's so interesting with this fruit because oftentimes when you purchase it at a supermarket, it's green, and that's because it transports better when they pick it a little bit underripe. But a fully ripened lime is actually a light green to a yellow colour like this one here. However, having said that, some people find that limes, when they get to this yellow colour, don't have the best flavour. So personally, I prefer to pick them when they are more of a light green with a slight hint of yellow on their outside. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring this inside and I might make some hot tea with it. I actually still have a little bit of mint growing in the garden, so I'll pick some of those leaves and I think that will be a nice combination to warm me up a bit. Thanks so much for watching this week's garden update, everyone. I really appreciate all your support. As I said numerous times before, I enjoy sharing my garden with each and every one of you. So until next week, please stay safe, take care of yourself and your family, and I'll see you on Friday.